I want it all on the recording. Yeah, I'm ready. Welcome to another Wednesday yachting luncheon. Looking out the window, I can't think of a prettier place to be for our luncheons. Holy macaroni. I think it's blowing, what do you think, 22, 23 in the middle of the bay? Kind of lighter in here next to the shadow of the building. Let's see a little bit about future speakers. You want to stop by on July 18th because Chris Ray and his dear wife Kim will be here to talk all about Africa. Chris, as you know, has taken 75-80% of all the photographs in our beautiful St. Francis Yacht Club, and he's then gone to Africa and taken incredible photographs. Word is if you put all the photos together side by side, they are wider than all of Africa, but he'll be here to talk about that. And then we've all been watching the extreme sailing circuit, so Dana Blackwood will be here to talk all about extreme sailing, the hot rod cats that are going fast all the time. And then you want to stop by on June 20th. Michael Ellis, the noted environmentalist and naturalist, will be here to talk all about Mojave, now a desert, once a lake in California. And then on the 13th, how many people watched Grand Prix racing on the Marina Green or on Marina Boulevard? Well, Bob Devlin will be here to talk all about Grand Prix auto racing in Golden Gate Park and on the Marina in 1915. Carlo Ficino will be here in June to talk all about rowing from Norway to Iceland. That's a good way to get there. And then Janice Curveau will be here to talk on May 30th about sailing around the world with her family. 2 boys included, one of which is now, and one of whom is now a pro sailor. He'll be here to talk all about how that early experience modified his life, changed his life. He would say pivoted his life. On the 23rd of May, Bill Pearson will be here from North Sails to talk all about the new technology of 3DI sails. And next week, Malcolm Page will be here. He is the chief of the U.S. Olympic sailing team. He's only a 7-time world champion in the 470 class. And he is, of course, a 2-time gold medal Olympic winner in the Olympics. So he's now running the U.S. Olympic sailing team. He will be a guest skipper, I'm proud to say, on my boat. Youngster Ron is tonight sailing out here, so come by and watch incredible Olympians racing in our bay, including Ron skippering youngster tonight. So that's kind of a fun thing. I should also now introduce, it's my great pleasure to introduce our Commodore, the first female Commodore in the history of the St. Francis Yacht Club. Say hello, Teresa Brandner. Teresa.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. And welcome, everyone, here to the St. Francis. It is a beautiful venue. We love it. Also, welcome to those viewers online. We really appreciate your interest, and also we got a packed house here, so you probably have a more comfortable seat there because we're all squeezed in here. But really excited about today's topic, today's speaker, Ron Holland, and want to give him a very, very warm welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Commodore. Also, we want to introduce, after the talk and the interview and so on, you are welcome to come down to the E-Dock and walk around on a newly restored, a KKMI restored Swan 441, designed by Ron Holland. And Brian Mannix, stand up. Brian, thank you for bringing the boat over. Brian Mannix, ably assisted by Paul Kaplan in the back of the room, and great, all set here. And Jock McLean. So you can come and look at the boat after that, Jocko. A little bit about our speaker today. Imagine being 7 years of age and your dad gives you what is the kind of hot little cat boat in your area. In the case of New Zealand, it was a P-class boat. And he kind of thought, okay, this is pretty good. I'm 7. It's bigger than I am. I'll go racing around in this thing. But he took to it very, very quickly. And by the time he was 15, he sailed an ocean race from Auckland to Sydney. By the time he was 16, a year later, he was apprenticed to a boat builder, which is a significant thing to think about. Remember that George Steers, who designed America, the most famous yacht perhaps in history, he was never known as a naval architect. The term didn't exist then. He was really the foreman of the yard. And he's the one who drew the lines of America and other pilot schooners of the day that were so fast. At age 19, he designed his first boat, White Rabbit, and he, at age 19, thought, whoa, this is a kind of a big deal. I've designed a boat now. At age 21, feeling his oats, he came to San Francisco and he met George Cascadden. Those of you who remember George Cascadden, I worked for him in '74. He was an amazing character, very visionary, and he had a big influence on Ron's early career. At 21, he was working the same year for Gary Mull when the lines for Improbable were drawn, and from Improbable, he met many of the very significant and important crew members, which would sail on boats that he would do thereafter. At 26, he built his first boat, a quarter-tonner, 18, and they won the quarter-ton Worlds, which put him on the map in a significant way. At 26, the same year, he started his design business in Ireland. At age 28, he designed Imp for our dear friend Dave Allen. Dave and Betty were incredible exemplary sailors and yachtspeople. Incredibly had a good eye for young talent, and with an incredibly great crew that is here, many of whom are here today. They sailed Imp to incredible victories, won 2 Admirals Cups, SORC, virtually everything. And so from that Imp crew today, I spoke to Skip Allen, who's not here. He's up in the mountains in Colorado, and John Ravisa would later sail a bunch on Imp. Johnny, you're here. But we want to name the guys who actually were there for the Fastnet race. So first off, Tad Lacey, Thaddeus, and Donnie Jesberg, stand up, guys, and Billy Barton, and The Bone, Steve Taft, and Tom Wiley. 5 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys who were part of that incredible historic Imp crew. Wonderful to have you guys all here today. Billy made a career out of this. He wrote a book about Imp, for heaven's sakes, but wasn't famous enough. Billy had to write a book about it. Absolutely. Since that time, our speaker today has designed 500 boats, 8 of which were power boats. He does not apologize for those because in his defense, he says they were all over 100 feet, Ron. So it's excusable to design a powerboat if they're big powerboats. And he's also designed Mirabellas, and including Mirabella 5. And it was, as you know, 280 feet long. Who knows how tall the mast is? Besides Ron Holland? Exactly. 300 feet, 224 to get through the gate, not coming in the gate. And in an inspirational follow-on part of his life, 6 years ago, he had a stroke from which you will see he has recovered. Human determination and tenacity may be one of our greater qualities, and Ron exemplifies that. He sailed last year in the 6-meter Worlds up in Seattle. Please welcome an inspiration to everybody in the yachting world, Ron Holland. Ron.
I'm testing. Thank you, Ron. I'm testing my TED Talk mic and the click on. Thank you. Okay. The first thing I want to say is I love it when the Commodore gets kissed. I've never seen that before. First time I've ever seen the Commodore kissed. The second thing I want to say is, taking advantage of I want everyone to look out here, and there's a classic old motor yacht heading towards the Sausalito. So, why I say look out here is because what I've learned. Oh, I love it when I'm over 70 because I can say what I learned. If you're 40, you can't. No one gives a shit what you learn at 40. 70, listen to this. I forgot what I was going to say. So what I'm showing via Sailing Illustrated is a 4-minute introduction. Not as good as Ron Young's introduction, but not bad. pretty sure when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be regretful. I'm kind of pretty confident that I tested it. I had a stroke. So I'm 12 days in Vancouver General Hospital, and for the first 2 or 3 days, you're not sure if you're going to live or not. And I'm going, okay, Ron, now what's the story about this no regrets? And I'm lying there going, yeah, absolutely. So I'd done more than I dreamed. I had big dreams, but boy, I did more.
You want to attack?
Yeah, we'll attack. Good job. Good job, boys. My left hand dexterity certainly had slipped in the stroke thing. I thought, oh, you want to challenge your dexterity? Go back to piano lessons. That'll fix you. God, it was hard. Really not much in my life was planned. It was saying yes to the next opportunity that came up. We started off doing little race boats. We got to do these big maxi racing boats. What the hell is going to be next? Well, what came next was bigger boats. So we go from about 100, 110 foot size private yachts to 140 feet. And then we have a boat, Talia, 160 feet. When our client started talking about his dream for the Marabella project, he was talking about something so different than anyone had ever done before. We're doing a boat that won't go onto any bridge anywhere in the world. We had the world's biggest mast already at 215 feet. And what Joe Vittoria was talking about for Marabella was going to be 300 feet. Just a giant jump. So I prepared a drawing of Marabella sailing alongside the Golden Gate Bridge. Obviously not going to get through. The drawing was unveiled at this press reception in Cowes. And these guys were going, no way! That was really cool for me to kind of see the reaction. They were blown away. I don't know, I never even kind of considered that it might not happen. It just kind of made each step of the way. I took the next step and ended up with this result.
Right.
I'm making a movie, you got to come and see that. Also, no, today this is about please buy my book. Later on, come and see my movie. So when I just look at this, standing here, when I look at the trailer, standing here looking out the window of the Golden Gate, the trailer is full of San Francisco, and that's not by accident. Like, I didn't design that trailer for the group at the St. Francis Yacht Club today. It happened that way because that's what happened. I came here when I was 21, and I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. But it's actually it's a bit emotional standing here looking at the Golden Gate, the Yacht Club, because in 1969 when I arrived, I could have had no idea what was going to happen. I wouldn't have had any idea I had a stroke at 64 or whatever I did. Anyway, so sorry. I'm sorry to warn you, this is going to take longer than you think. So the first image here is, I've got to tell you a story about, the whole story is about a kid that failed high school. I couldn't read, so I had to have special remedial lessons. And you kind of feel a bit silly being dragged out of school by your mother. Come on, come old dummy Ron, you've got to learn to read when you're 13 or something. But this book, Swallows and Amazons, taught me to read. Once I started reading, I don't know if you're familiar with Arthur Ransom. He's an English writer, and it's all about kids and boats and about maps. So maps somehow was highly attractive. Even this is about San Francisco. Well, look, Vancouver. Drake, Vancouver, and Cook. It was all about the Northwest Passage and the Golden Gate. Not the bridge, but the entry was on the way to the Northwest Passage. And I kind of love the fact that, a couple hundred years ago, it was all about the Northwest Passage. It's still about the Northwest Passage. Jesus, the Northwest Passage, if they start letting tankers through here, willy-nilly. Okay, I'll save this for later. It's another lecture. Anyway, so I'm a fan on exploring under sail. And I'm such a fan that I actually go to George Vancouver's grave, which is in London, not far from Heathrow Airport. And an English journalist, I'm worrying about taking too long, but you've got to hear this. The English journalist friend of mine said, would you be interested in seeing Vancouver's grave, knowing I'm interested in the explorers, the under-sail explorers? I said, absolutely, I'd love to see Vancouver. He's on the phone to the vicar at the church, and I can tell that from the conversation, the vicar is amazed that anyone's interested. So we go to the church. It's exactly like Hollywood would stage a church. It's a typical English graveyard church. And the vicar is thrilled to see us show up, takes me down behind the church to here's Vancouver's grave. Well, I mean, you have to be impressed. This is Captain George Vancouver's grave. Captain George Vancouver died in the year 1798, aged 40. Wow. Okay, I could talk all day about this, but I'm don't want to bore you. But I've been to Cook's grave too. I'm sorry, I'm getting off the grave thing. This is a hell of an important image. This is a painting I commissioned from my Vancouver-based artist friend, John Horton. And it's two clipper ships coming up the English Channel. And that's about San Francisco too, when you think about it. It's sail, trade. So in the tea clippers coming from China, they were racing because the first tea clipper into London gained a premium for the price of their tea. I'm talking serious money, not what else is paying, big money. This is like, these guys could all retire. If you're on the first tea of the season into London, you're all millionaires. So they were taking their racing fairly seriously. This wasn't piddling around with America's Cup stuff. This is serious racing. So the two ships, actually 5 ships, left on the same tide out of wherever they left in China, and there was two new, relatively new ships, Taiping and Ariel, that were, the kind of favourites in the racetrack. So these ships leave the Chinese coast, sort of sail across the Indian Ocean, around Cape of Good Hope, up the Atlantic. They never see anyone. They're all alone. They get off the Scilly Islands, coming into the entrance of the channel, and who's alongside them? This is a bit like the Volvo Round the World race. There's a bloody ship, a beam of them. This is depicting coming up the channel in an increasing gale, full sail. Because you get to pick the pilot up first, you can retire from being a seaman because you're rich. So the ships come up the channel, and I forget whether it was Ariel or Taiping, picked the pilot up first. Now, when you think there was no cell phones, but I read that everyone in London knew these two ships were racing together up the channel, and they could be seen off the Isle of Wight. And so how the hell they did that without a cell phone, I don't know. But anyway, they knew. The first ship got the pilot. Unfortunately, they also chose the slow tugboat. The second ship got the pilot second, so they theoretically.
Hold that punchline.
Glory of live streaming.
Am I allowed to go? Yeah. Sailing Illustrated, here I come. Okay, so the second ship gets the fast tugboat. Imagine this, after they're racing for 80 days, and the tugboat goes past the first ship, dragging the second ship. What were those guys thinking? Well, what happened was, because it was such a big deal, they didn't have Sailing Illustrated in those days. How did they know about this? The owners of the ships had done a deal. They were sharing the premium. So, it was kind of sad for the crew. But I'm worried about timing. Anyway, that's a cool story, isn't it? I'm just wanting to tell you, this is yacht racing. This is not America's Cup. This is serious yacht racing. Thank you, Ron. Sounds loud to me. Okay. Now, here we are, we're still in the bay. And this is an important image because it's a sailing ship. Of course, you know I love sailing ships. But it's a San Francisco sailing ship. Mary, will you stand up, please? This is the owner of this ship.
Very proudly.
And this is now, I'm switching tacks now from big prize money race yachts to being aware of cleaning the oceans. Oh, I've got something here to show you. This wasn't supposed to be, I wasn't supposed to be doing an ecological program, but I'm doing it anyway. This is to do with Mary Crowley's program with the sailing ship I'm showing you. And this is what the hell is it? I don't know what's it called?
Satellite tracker.
Satellite tracker. So when you see a lot of rubbish in the water, plastic straws, you put this in the water and it gives a bunch of research scientists a chance to be aware in dense areas of plastic in the ocean are and track them. I'll stick with this. So much for technology. Oh, God. Oh, hang on. I was leading technology with my yacht design company. What the hell am I saying? Okay, wait. So now it's back to when I was a kid. So this is the beach where I started sailing. It's in Tor Bay, north of Auckland in New Zealand, where the next America's Cup's going to be. So part of the story is, well, you got a little gist. So I failed high school. High school? I tried the last exam twice, failed both times. So I'm 16. Things are not looking too good for this kid. But I'm winning yacht races in the weekend. So I'm a failure at school, but I'm winning yacht races. So my self-esteem is okay. Oh, I must have been a pain at school. So at 16, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not going back for the third time for this bloody exam. Fortunately, I got a job at this boatyard, TK Atkinson, Browns Bay. So I start my boat building apprenticeship. And in New Zealand in the 60s, a boat building apprenticeship was a kind of, okay, if you couldn't get to university, you did apprenticeships. But it was fairly serious. It was like a government contract. You had 5 years, and my first wage packet, £5.06. God knows what that was. Anyway, so I did. Now get this, I even failed boat building. Oh my God, because I was more interested in drawing than building boats. But a couple of people gave me a chance to do little yachts when I was 19, 20. And the boats came out great, so I'm kind of thinking, wonder how you could make a living doing this. Well, in New Zealand, when I was a kid, no one would pay you for designing boats. I'm going to slightly change tack here, because I don't want you to get bored. New Zealand punches above its weight, not only in sailing and a whole bunch of other things. Now, when I was writing my book, I was sort of conscious and thinking about that. And my conclusion was geographic isolation. So I'm born by luck into as far away as you can get from London, right? The bottom of the South Pacific. But that geographic isolation and the pioneers that ended up there, I'm sure same can be said for California. I'm fascinated with this westward ho the wagon thing. What the hell did they think when they got to the Grand Canyon? Anyway, I don't want to get off track. So when I was a kid, you weren't going to make a living as a yacht designer because everyone designed and built their own boats. There was, everyone would, you want a boat? I'll build myself a boat. So no one's paying for yacht designs. You just do it yourself. Oh, I've got to tell you, when I was a teenager, there was the concrete boat boom. Imagine. Everyone decided concrete boats was the way to go. So every household in Auckland had bloody chicken wire and pipes sticking out over the hedge. And everyone was making concrete boats. And there was a few of them that were quite good. Most sank immediately. So So I've got to get back. I've got to keep on track here. This is an important lunch group. I've got to get back to work. So I'm thinking, how the hell could I be a yacht designer? Well, by luck, I met a Divisadero Street San Francisco sailor, George Cascade, that Ron introduced you to in his introduction. And actually his son is here. George, you got to stand up, because George is more important than not only is he a Cascaden family member, but he's also in charge of selling my books. Oh, I love that. so George Cascaden is a bit different. One example of being different: he's the only American company working with Red China during Mao Zedong Revolution. Think about that. That's bloody different. Okay, now I want to tell you about. So I arrive here to live with the Cascadens, and I come down to the San Francisco Yacht Club first day I'm here. Oh no, I've got to tell you even a more important story about my first arrival in San Francisco, 1969. If you're a wet behind the ears 21-year-old from New Zealand and you arrive in San Francisco at the end of the 60s, wow. So that was me. So I'm here at 1969. Now I have to introduce Commodore Tompkins into this program too, because I'm on a cargo ship. Oh God, life was so complicated. So much happened in 71 years. So I'm on a cargo ship coming to San Francisco with a 24-foot scale model of a big schooner that Cascaden had commissioned a friend of mine in New Zealand to design and build. The ship gets diverted from San Francisco to San Pedro docks. George Cascaden sends Commodore Tompkins with his Soling trailer down to San Pedro to get me and the little boat. So I arrive in San Francisco up Highway 101 with Cascaden's driver, who's just won the Fastnet race with Dick Carter and Red Rooster. Hey, talk about the stars being in line. So we arrive, and he drives into the St. Francis Yacht Club parking lot and says, "Holland, you've got to put your best clothes on because we're going to dinner." Best clothes? What the hell are you talking about? I didn't have any best clothes. Anyway, so we go to the Jewish Community Center for a piano recital by a friend of the Cascaden family and the Tompkins families too, by the way, Susie Lowenstein. You have to remember, I've been on a cargo ship with a bunch of drunk English sailors for 3 weeks. I get off, I'm in the Commodore's car, come here, arrive at the yacht club, and then we're at the Berkeley Jewish Community Center. God, I hope I'm not boring you. No. So I'm at the concert recital. I meet all the Cascaden family. George's brother, a couple of sisters, Mrs. Cascaden. And then we go to the Divisadero Street house for dinner. And there's a lot of crowd around, all kinds of unusual people, like musicians, artists, old hippies. And everyone's leaving, and I'm tired. I'm ready for bed. Just as the last person leaves, there's a knock on the door. 3 cowboys come into the living room. Cowboys! I can tell you. Rambler Jack Elliott, Chris Christophers, and I don't remember the other guy. Hey, I'm on first night in San Francisco. The next day I'm over at Haight-Ashbury. And that weekend, Grateful Dead concert. That's the way my life went. And you got to read about it. It's unbelievable stories. Some of my best friends are kings and princes. So, geez, I've got to stay on track here. They're going to keep... I'm sorry to take so long, whoever's in charge of this program, but I don't care. I should have been showing you this. There's the little boat I came up on the cargo ship with. Here's Spirit on the bay. Here we are racing. So George said, besides sailing the little model boat and giving feedback back to New Zealand during the construction of the big boat, I've got another job for you. I'm going to race my Spirit to Tahiti, and I need you to work on that. So we raced to Tahiti. Now, we had some problems entering the race because there was 2 new rules that George felt was a conspiracy against him personally. The 2 rules were you've got to have an engine and you've got to do a minimum speed. I could write a book about that. The other rule was you've got to take 6 people. Well, they've raced Spirit across the Atlantic fast and raced. They don't need 6 people. And George is going, God, 6 people. So he goes, I'm taking my 9-year-old kid. So here we are, which is about like 20 days out probably here. And see how young Johnny Cascaden doesn't look particularly happy to be there. I mean, Doug Peterson and I were thrilled to be there. But Johnny, now, when I say to Johnny now, do you remember? He goes, I don't remember. Here we are at the finish. This is, here we are finishing Spirit, finishing in Tahiti, 23 days. No toilet, no engine, no radio, no nothing. Do we have a stove? Yes, we have. Because we had to boil water. We had Sierra Club freeze-dried food. God, tuna Neptune, I can still taste it. Okay, I'm trying to make this more interesting. And we are. Hey, Georgie, there you are with your dress on. So this is Spirit arriving. I wonder why the thing got small.
That's what she said. I didn't say that. It sounded like me.
So here we are parking in Tahiti after 23 days. 23 days? This was the longest race in the world in those days. Was the round the world race started then? I don't think so. I don't know. Anyway, it was a bloody long time, a little boat. And this Doug Peterson with his curly hair on the left, Jim Leach up at the mainsail, and me on the foredeck. Johnny and George Sr. were gone into a cold shower. That's all I remember about Tahiti. It was beautiful arriving, but we were in some cheap hotel in the bloody cold shower after 23 days. Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, then San Francisco again. When I arrived, Tompkins introduced me to Gary Mull. Oh my God, I had a chance to go work in a proper yacht design office. Well, I made the tea. But at the time I was making the tea, Improbable was being conceived. And this was a San Francisco challenge on the world. It was designed to win the Jamaica race, and we kicked ass in the Jamaica race. Here we are at the end of the Jamaica race. Tompkins is looking a bit tired. Skip Allen's looking like he comes from San Francisco. Me with curly hair. Dave Allen. We were bloody lucky to get to know Dave Allen. You got to read my story about Dave Allen in my book. So then I'm still thinking, I wonder if I could be a yacht designer. Well, I ended up in Florida getting a job for the Morgan Yacht Corporation, building plastic boats. God, these were all wooden boats before that. So here I am building my boat, and here we are.
winning the Tampa Bay Championship, which means I get to go to England for the World Championship. So it was, and Commodore Tompkins was sailing with me. So it's still a San Francisco connection, see? So we win the Tampa Bay Regatta, and I go to Charlie Morgan the next morning, Monday morning. Charlie, I just won this championship, and I got a chance to go to England for the World Championship. He says, no, you can't go. I went. And then so I went to Ireland for the weekend and stayed 40 years. I went to Ireland because a bunch of Irish sailors, if anyone's bored, tell me, I'll heat this program up a bit with some profanities. Anyway, the first part I did in Ireland was this wooden racing yacht. If you want to be famous in Ireland, beat the English at yacht racing. So I was pretty bloody famous in Ireland for a while, I can tell you. So this is this is a bit like the sailing ship image. This is before cell phones. No, I'm kidding, before computers. But this is the way we used to design boats. Yeah, before cell phones, because you can do it on your cell phone now. And I could go on all day about this, but I'm not going to. This is cool. This is a shot of the local boat here, Imp, winning everything, everywhere. If you want to be a famous and rich yacht designer, sorry I said that. You better have a bloody good crew on your boat. Honestly, it's easy. Just get the best guys selling your boat and you get to be a famous yacht designer. You get to talk. At 71 years of age at St. Francis, you get to look at the Golden Gate. It's unbelievable. Just get the best guys selling your boat. So I've been showing this image for a few presentations, and then I realized every boat on that photo is mine, my design. I go, Jesus, every one of those guys is a Ron Holland boat. Too bad I never got rich. I got bloody famous. So I got so famous that some of my best clients were prime ministers. Here's Mr. Edward Heath selling his latest Ron Holland Morning Cloud. So, and then things got serious because plastic boats became Kevlar carbon boats, and they got bigger. So this is the maxi. We got to do maxi boats, Kealoha. Okay, we're not in San Francisco, but we're in California. And then we get a chance to meet Tom Eamon in Perth, because when Ben Lexon won the America's Cup in Newport, John Bertrand, Alan Bond. When the Aussies won the America's Cup in Newport, New Zealand's not going to just sit around and let those guys keep it. Are you kidding? If the bloody Aussies can do it, we can. So we had the chance to have a first New Zealand America's Cup challenge. And this was the boat we did. We were accused of some very serious things because we did a plastic boat.
First plastic coating.
So Dennis is not here, so I can say whatever I like. Okay, keep going. Anyway, and then things got serious. Boats over 100 feet. Are you kidding? 100 feet? Oh my God, we've been sailing 40-footers all our lives. And they not only got 100 feet, they got 100 feet for a serious reason. The world economic situation improved, and our race boat guys got, I've been told I'm not supposed to say this, but for you guys I'm going to say it. My race boat clients got older, richer, and fatter. Now, if you are older and richer and fatter, this is what you need. It wasn't like this on Spirit. But I could spend all day talking to you about the art of yacht interior design, but I'm not going to bore you. But we did some cool interiors. There's a story about the big boat. You got to put the Golden Gate in. And most of my clients complain they never have enough storage. This boat has enough storage. So after we'd designed the biggest boat in the world, my client says, I want to bring my 40-foot Hinkley with me. And I don't want to put it on deck. Okay, well, now we're up to 170 feet. This is building Mirabella in the Vosper Thornycroft military shipyard in England. And this is something, so you walk in this room and you go, oh my God, this is it. I could keep you here all day with stories about how we designed and built this thing.
How long was
But
that, Rob? That was the 300 foot.
I think 12 years, 15 years ago,
How long was the boat?
270 or
That's
something.
Wow.
But this image is important because the original owner, Joe Vittoria, sold the boat to a Texas yachtsman, and the first thing he said to me was, "Can I make it bigger?" You gotta love those Texans, because he wanted to put his plane on it. Well, what you'll learn from reading my book, if you could ever lift it, you got to say yes. You just say yes. I want to carry a plane. I want a 40-foot dinghy. Yeah. And you go, oh shit! How do we do this? Oh, you're going to love this story. Honestly, you were. Oh, I wish I could walk around the room, but I can't. I got to get stuck here. So 11 meters. There were a bunch of them on the bay. Look, 11-meter guys. You guys, you got to hear my 11-meter story. That's actually my personal 11-meter that I had, the first one built. So I get a call from a young Norwegian guy, and he says, "We have one of your 11 meters, and we want to race it across the Atlantic." Sometimes you say no. So anyway, what happened? This is such a complex story, but you're going to love it. Believe me, if you can be patient enough to hear the end, you'll love it. They buy one of the boats in Portugal. They sail it to the Canary Islands, 3 young Norwegian guys, because they want to enter the Ark, the Atlantic, what's it called? Yeah, the relay for cruises. So there's 100 boats preparing in the Canary Islands to race to the Caribbean. These guys arrive, and the race committee say, no. Thank God. So they go, hey, okay, well, we'll go anyway. So they start outside the starting line, put the chute on, and disappear over the horizon. Halfway across, one late evening squall come through, jibed the bloody thing, and one of the guys gets knocked over the side. You think that's the punchline? That's nothing. So then I'm going to jump now to a few years later. I'm doing a regatta in Norway, and one of my buddies comes up to me on the dock and says, "See that tall Norwegian guy over there? That's the guy that fell off your boat. I've got to meet this guy." So I remember saying to him, How did you feel? No, I'm going to go back and forward from the present to the past to the further past. Yeah. Past and worse past, more past. So he gets hit on the head by the boom. He falls over the side. He sees his two other buddies reaching back and forwards looking for him, and he's like close. But in the big trade wind seas, they can't find him. Gets dark. And the two guys on the boat are going, shit, what do we do? Let's just turn 90 degrees and keep going. So the guy that I met in Norway is swimming all night. Like no life jacket. He's got a T-shirt and a pair of shorts. He stays afloat all night. And I said to him, well, now I'm back in the medium past, what the hell were you thinking? He said, well, two things come to mind. One is I'm a professional seaman. I've done all the safety stuff. The second thing was there's 100 boats coming. He said, but really what was worrying me was my bleeding head. I was worried about sharks. I'm going, you were worried about sharks? You had bigger problems than sharks. But anyway, so get this. He stays afloat all night, and in the morning, here comes a boat. Went right past him. Imagine how you're feeling. Here comes another one. A couple of hours later, don't see him. Now he's got to be getting depressed. Just before dusk that day, so now he's been in the water bloody near 24 hours. Warm water, lucky. What was going to happen at Farallon's? A boat comes and runs him over. But it wasn't one of the race guys. It was a little family cruising boat from Denmark. A husband and wife and two little kids. Imagine you're sitting in the cockpit and you look over the side. There's a guy swimming here. Well, so they drag this guy on the boat. But you think that's an impressive punchline? Nothing. 2 days earlier, they'd picked a Congolese guy out of the water who had been thrown off the ship because he was a stowaway. They just chucked him off. Didn't want to deal with it when you got to wherever they were going. So this Norwegian family, how do you explain arriving with two more people than you started with? Anyway, it's a nice ending because the family adopted officially the Congolese guy. The Norwegian guy's part of the family, and it's, everyone lived happily ever after. Jesus, am I into trouble with timing here? I'm worrying about Sailing Illustrated running out of tape. Okay, that's my 11-metre story. I'm going like hell now. Now, it's not all about big boats. These 50, 60 footers is a nice way to take your family or your girlfriend or your wife around the world. But now we're back in San Francisco. Oh, God, this is Bill Joy's Ethereal. He's a Mill Valley tycoon. This is a 185-foot, very comfortable sailing boat. And it's doing what it was designed to do. This is the south end of New Zealand, and it's ethereal cruising the world. This is what I'm trying to do with my boats. Beautiful, fast, and go anywhere yachts. Then I had a chance to do powerboats. Oh, you'll love this. So very late in my career, I figured out I've been spending my whole life in 9% of the market. Sailboats are under 10% of the market. 95% of the market's powerboats. Holland, are you crazy? So I did a few powerboats. They were very nice too. So, and if you're fat, rich, and old, this is what you need. And also, I put this in because it's the design brief was a kind of explorer yacht, a long distance explorer yacht. But you don't have to look like a warship. You can achieve the long distance comfort with an aesthetic solution. And here's a model of another one I did. So this is one of my latest. This is one of the latest preenies. Now there's a very famous San Francisco sailor who used to win all the races in these preenie boats I designed. He got his ass kicked this year, but.
Last year. He's got two of them. Right? He's got two Marines.
No, not now. No, he sold one. But okay, now we're getting to the end of the story. So this is me last year in the 6 meter worlds. Okay, I see I'm not winning, but I'm up there with the experts. I'm in the red boat. Geez, it was hard to get in the first 10 in this regatta. There's 45 boats. I think we came 18th or 17th or something. It used to be bloody easy to win races. And so I'm complaining like this, when I'm coming. Here we are, 11th, 12th, oh God. And one of my crew looks at me and said, I think it was in response to me going, why can't I get in the first 10 in this bloody 6 meter regatta? And he goes, you used to design fast boats. It was easier in the old days. And this is the last picture. It's me at 70 years of age, back on the beach at Torbay with my first boat. Isn't that a cool way to finish? That's the last picture of the book. I'm going to go this way.
Up, right there, no, right, little up a bit. Ronnie sits there. Ronnie looks up the show.
Welcome again to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, live from the grill room of the St. Francis Yacht Club. Our speaker and guest today is the renowned, that's what she said, is the renowned naval architect Ron Holland. Ron, welcome again to our St. Francis Yacht Club. Talk to us just for a second about, first of all, I also want to mention that St. Francis Yacht Club has, as a matter of policy, eliminated plastic straws. We wish yacht clubs who are learning about this will do the same thing. No disposable items that won't dissolve in the water. That's our point of view, and that's what we want everybody else to basically do just the same. So, Ron, early in your career, you became an apprentice. That's not a custom these days. People talk about grad school. Instead, you benefited greatly. Talk to us about what your duties were as an apprentice and about the whole apprentice program that you started when you were just a kid.
Am I on the air? Yes. So the apprenticeship thing, first of all, as I alluded to, it's kind of for kids that aren't going to get to university. So there's a kind of a stigma attached to it. I hope it's less now than it used to be. But in the 50s, the kids that went to apprenticeships were the ones that couldn't pass their exams. As it turned out, I joined some good company. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates.
Who are those guys? What'd they do?
But I would love for young people to read my book. When you look at the book, you think yachts, boats, rich people. But I think the main story that I'm writing is how there is an unconventional route to fame and fortune. It sounds good. So, but the reality is now that a lot of these high-tech tycoons didn't fit into the formal education route. It's the reality. I think you'll be amazed at how many of these really high-profile rich guys didn't do it as conventionally as some other people might do it. There's just different ways of doing it. Now, I didn't realize till I was much older that the way I did it was kind of okay. You know, because when I was doing it, I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to succeed at something. Okay, I'll pick boats. Boy, I bloody succeeded, all right. But boy, I bulldozed things away to succeed. You know, I didn't succeed as gently as I could have. I kind of bulldozed my way to success. So the apprenticeship thing, Ron, was now reflecting on it a bit more deeply. It's an educational message that I want to give some kid that's going, how can I fit into this school thing? Give the guy hope. There's another way to do it. I like that. That's what this is about. There's another way to do it.
Give us a day in the life of an apprentice. What were your duties? What did you do?
So the apprentice thing, well, first of all these kids that are apprentices are the ones that aren't going to get to college, right? So there's already that kind of aspect. Some of them really love boats, like I did, but most of my apprentice buddies, they didn't care about boats. They just weren't allowed to go to university, so they just do it a job. So the day of an apprentice, wooden boats. There was no fiberglass boats. There were wood boats. So you were dealing with craftsmanship and natural materials. I never said that before, but I like that. My first week at work, I made lots of cups of tea. I swept up a shitload of shavings on the floor. So then but what later on, now eventually I didn't even pass my apprenticeship because I wanted to go racing and you were supposed to stay 10 years in this job, and I went, I'm going to go sailing. So I even failed my apprenticeship. But later on, that experience was so helpful and important because I found, in my 20s, 30s, I could walk into a boatyard anywhere in the world, even where they don't speak English, and I did that a lot 40 years ago. Over 50 years ago. Oh, my God. So I'd go into an Italian or a Japanese boatyard. They're not speaking English, but I could tell you, I knew exactly what was going on because it's a wooden boatyard. I know all about it. So it was a huge, important foundation for my designing because I had this practical experience. I had the sailing and the boat building to go with the designing. Pretty punchy.
So when did you first hear the term naval architect? Had you heard that term earlier?
You'll love this one. God, I've never said this before. So my mother had to come to the school classroom and drag me out to remedial reading lessons. And it's a bit embarrassing. I was the tallest kid in the class, so it was pretty bloody obvious. Here goes old dummy Holland going out to learn to read. So But your question's perfect, Ron, because the lady that was teaching me to read is a Professor Murray Clay, she was a Fulbright scholar, which means you come to the States if you're really good and you get a chance to be at some US university. And she was also the first woman on the Auckland University faculty. So she's a beauty. I was lucky to meet her. So back to the story. So I'm going to her to learn to read. Well, she puts a Royal Naval Almanac on the table. Naval architecture stuff.
Got it.
And says, we're going to read this. I'm going, oh my God, I'm the one that can't read. But you know what? She was bloody clever because she just went, hey, this kid loves boats. She was right. A year later, I'm a bookworm. Worked. About anchors and naval architecture, I'm right there. So that was an interesting lesson.
So we roll ahead. Now you're an architect. You're designing boats. It's after IMP. What's your design process like? How do you start out?
Well, first of all, I'm actually not an architect.
Yes, a designer. Sorry.
That suggests you've been to university.
And we're clear on that.
Oh, but I missed in my show. I am teaching a master's program at Auckland University. And the reason I did the book is my students, when they hear these other stories, they go, how the hell why are you teaching this? Well, I'm going to write a book and tell you how. So I'm going to do another diversion. It's not so far off track, but a bit off track. So in my master, what I'm teaching is called Master's Yacht Engineering, and it's at the Auckland University Engineering Department. And hey, we won the America's Cup. So, God, I had something really good to say and I forgot what the hell it was. I'll think of it later. But it's about cell phones. So I'm teaching this master's program to graduate engineers and quite varied, and not many Kiwis, mostly foreign students in New Zealand. Often I tell really wild stuff, as you got a feeling how that could happen. And they're going, nothing, no reaction. It took me a year to figure this out. You want a reaction? No cell phone. Now you just go, bullshit. You couldn't do this without a cell phone. I go, we had no cell phone. So, and if you want the attention of 25-year-old graduate engineers, you've got to say, hey guys, we had no cell phone. They don't believe me. Why the hell? Was this anything to do with the question you're asking?
Doesn't matter. We're wandering alongside the road, and it's just as interesting. We're going to get from here to there. So talk about design team. Talk about who's on your team when you're building. What about the structural? What about those other issues?
And what Ron's earlier question was the process.
Right.
Which ties in with this question too.
Shocking.
It's client-driven. So I think some designers have a house style where, the boats will look kind of similar.
Peterson transoms, whatever. You get to look at the boat and know who designed it.
Yeah, but that was more IOR rule influenced. Because I don't think Doug enjoyed pinch sterns any more than I did. But hey, we were trying to win races, and that's what was winning. You want to go up win quick? That's the way to design the boat. Imp was different. That's an interesting story. I could write a book about it. Bill did write a book about it. So, oh God, now I forgot what I was... Oh, the process.
The process, yeah.
So the client describes So I listened to what the client's saying, and it's not going to be a house-style boat. It's their vision of what boat they want. They might say, "I've seen, Imp, and I want a boat that's green."
Stripes.
Some boats got to have stripes, but it's client. You listen to the client, and now the two things: it must sail well, and it must look good. I don't want any crappy looking boat. I have done a few IOR boats that look pretty bad because we were pushing measurement rule points, but generally, the most important thing is that the client likes the way the boat sails, and when you row away from the boat in your dinghy and you look at it anchored, it looks pleasing. That's important.
Before CAD, when you first put pencil to paper, what's the first line you draw? Are you drawing the shear line, you're drawing the outline, you're drawing
I would say the bow and the shear are the two defining, how much overhang forward and whether the shears. God, these boats today, they're bloody straight lines. They go. Anyone could be a yacht designer today. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound facetious. I'm trying to make it humorous, not facetious.
What about the sail plan? Where is that in the stage in the process?
That's kind of power weight ratio until you get to Mirabella. Then you go. It really needs 400-foot mast, but I'm not doing it.
So what about the structural? When do you go to your structural collaborators?
And so it evolved. It changed and evolved.
Right.
So we start off with wooden boats, and I had a pretty good feel for that from my practical sweeping the floor and making the tea. But as things got more complex, we needed help. Oh, now I'm thinking of the carbon rudders. Oh, Jesus. Hey, the Imp guys will love this. So, a third of the way into our racing yacht career, and we're already doing sandwich construction, not wood, because we're trying to go lighter, stiffer, stronger and lighter. That's what we're trying to do. And then this carbon fiber rudder idea. Well, carbon fiber, hey, what the hell is it? Well, we've got to use it in our boats because Formula One race cars are using it.
There's a reason.
Unfortunately, the first lots of rudders, we weren't kind of designing them really. It was like kind of, see that rudder there? Wrap more carbon on it and good luck. So no one was designing it. We were just kind of building them, and they've all broke. Oh, shit. Even Imp broke a rudder. So, I tell you, this is another important kind of lesson. And one of the advantages of not doing well at school was that I knew to ask for help. It was just my normal thing. I had needed help, so I was asking for help. Well, when I designed Mirabella, the biggest single-master yacht in the world, with all kinds of engineering challenges, well, I just asked for help. So let me tell you a really cool story. Is it okay for 2 minutes? I'm so nervous about pissing off the authorities. So with the Mirabella project, I figured out that, okay, I would like a 400-foot mast, but I'm not going to tell the owner he needs a 400-foot, 300. Let's try 300. Now I need a 30-foot deep keel. And one of his stipulations was I want to park it outside my house in Palm Beach. So it's got to draw less than 15 feet. Well, I'm going, okay, so I've got to have my 30-foot keel lifting to 15. The keel is going to be 150 tons. So I'm going, the way I want to do it is I want to have it like a race dinghy centerboard, vertical lifting, and I envisage having a hydraulic ram that pulled the keel up around the ram. You know, the ram is hanging from the roof, and so the hydraulic ram lifts this 150-ton.
15 feet or so.
So, I got to ask for help. I don't know how to do this. So a friend of mine who's an engineer said, you got to call the North Sea oil rig guys. I've got a friend in Aberdeen. You got to call him and ask him about this. So, God, I wish I had a tape recording of this call. So I call Aberdeen with the North Sea oil experts. And there's a really broad Scottish accent guy on the phone. I'm sure he thinks he can't understand me. I can't understand him. But I'm saying, I described, I'm doing a sailboat. I want a 150-ton single ram to lift the keel up. And he goes quiet and he goes, you don't mean 1,500 tons, do you? I went, no, 150 tons. Oh, I said, there's nothing. I got them lying around the yard here. So ask for help. And
So in '86, we're down in Perth. It's the post race after in the semis. I think it was in the December trials, and Tommy Blackcollar is on the stage, and Dennis is over here. And you remember that Plastic Fantastic, Paul will remember, Plastic Fantastic was faster than anybody. We were coming on, and we would ultimately be, arguably the second or third fastest boat. But the plastic boat was clearly the boat to beat. And Dennis leans over, and he says, well, I don't know why you'd build a plastic boat if you didn't want to cheat. And the whole room just pauses for a second, and Blackcollar says, I don't think you should have said that, Dennis. I don't think you should have said it. So now, where were you at that moment?
I was standing in the back row, and if you replay that movie, you can hear me going, fuck off, Connors!
As I was saying to Blocker, oh my God! You were saying, fuck him, that's perfect.
So, New Zealand loves Dennis. Dennis is the biggest love-hate relationship guy in the world. More than Muhammad, probably.
So the book, the process of the book. When does this come into your idea? Does it evolve sort of like a yacht design?
Yes, it does. And it starts off with hearing this student question about, you didn't get your high school certificate, but you're teaching a master's program? How the hell did that happen? So I'm going, okay, I'll tell you how it happened. And you can only tell it by these stories. And God, it's so cool. Now I'm sitting here. It's unbelievable looking out the St. Francis Yacht Club at the Golden Gate, because this was such an influential geographic thing. It all started here. And then Dave Allen comes along with Ebb. Commodore Tompkins, Gary Vale, Dave Allen. It just goes on and on. And these guys know how to sail a boat, so you look like you're a bloody good yacht designer.
Okay, so you get the idea of the book when, and what's your process? Do you write it in a disciplined manner, sometime every day, when it comes to you? How do you write it?
So I actually started it years ago.
How long ago?
30 years ago, 20 years
good.
ago. And then I realized, I was working with a New Zealand friend who was a Time Life writer. And the way it was coming out was the stories were, I talked about Haight-Ashbury. And I'm thinking, hang on, I chickened out. I said, if I'm trying to establish a credible yacht design business, I don't really want to talk about drugs, sex, and rock and roll all the time. So I stopped that process for 20 years. And then 5 or 6 years ago, when you're at the end of your 60s, you think, I've got something to say now. So it took a 3 years of quite intense, and I do it mostly. I write a reflection or a recollection, and originally this Kiwi writer guy was still helping me. He kind of gave up because I'm long-winded. As you get the idea. So he said, I'm sick. I've got to go to work. Got to go back to work. You got to finish it on your own. But what he taught me on the second go round was you got to leave out a lot of stuff. If you write your personal story from your own point of view, it can be a bit boring. You've got to be careful about what you write and leave lots out. And I was complaining to him that you're leaving out all the good stuff. But now he taught me. So the process is that it started off by writing a recollection, giving it to a professional writer who put it in context. But I finished off by just rambling on like this.
So our guest today at the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon is the renowned naval architect Ron Holland. I'll have more questions, but if you have a question, please hold your hand up, and John Bechtel, our main sheet trimmer on Youngster, will bring you the mic. And Julia has a question from online.
We do. Yeah, Kimberly Paternoster asks, what do you think of the new America's Cup design?
Great question. I can't give the short answer. I've got to give you the long one. But my first reaction is, I hope to hell they're building prototypes, sailing prototypes. But then I'm thinking, hey, these guys are so clever. The guys that were doing that design work to create those 50-mile-an-hour multi-hulls probably know what they're doing. So this foil, rudder, balance, center of effort of the sail plan, they probably have it figured out. I'd still build a prototype if I was you.
Questions from the audience? Before the agenda, please ask us any questions about your rambling. Is that what you thought to yourself, okay, I'm just going to write story after story, anecdote after anecdote? Or did you have a thread for the story of your book? Did you say to yourself, I've got to start here and go there? What was your plan?
Well, the thread, I think when I was reflecting on how it happened, it was very much to do with saying yes to the next opportunity. The first thing, it's like lessons from my teaching. So first of all, you have to be aware of the opportunity, and they're there all the time, all around. But this is good. We are taught not to catch the opportunity. We are taught by our parents, by the priest, by the politicians, by the teacher. We're taught not to be aware of the next opportunity. We're taught to pass the next exam. See what I mean? So if you can place yourself in a way that you're aware of the opportunities that are all around us, and then you say yes. You don't think about what's mum going to think, what's the priest going to think, what's Donald Trump going to think. You just take the step into the yes and figure it out. I guess it's have faith. Yeah, I think you just take a chance. It's not flippant or disorganized. It's you use your experience in the unknown to make the next step, to catch the next opportunity.
So you're saying curriculum is kind of like a distraction from hunting for the next opportunity?
Yeah, I think I have to be careful answering this, Ron, because I don't want to just say curriculum is a distraction. And you can imagine when I'm at Auckland University, I have the faculty members looking in the door when I'm teaching because they want, what the hell is he going to say? So I'm not disrespectful or not honouring the
usual route. If you want to be a doctor or whatever, you have to do this kind of formal route. But wow, it's so freeing not to be. Oh, I've got this doctor or a lawyer. So freeing not to need to be a doctor or a lawyer. Thank God I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer.
We have a question from the back of the room. In fact, the senior member in the building, I think, next to RC, John Cumberpatch. Did you join in 52, John? John and Mary?
51.
51. See? Underestimated. Good on you. John, wonderful to see you and Mary here.
Well, Ron, it's a pleasure to have you here. In view of your lack of formal academic training, how did you acquire the technical knowledge, mathematics, maybe particularly, that supports your design activity?
I never did. So I had the practical wood boat shop experience. I was reading. Boy, was I reading. Harris, Schaff, Holland, Stevens, you name it, I read it. And then when I needed help, I was okay to ask for it. I had no problem asking for help. So, and I covered the maths by asking for help. Oh, I did. And I have to say, I didn't do this all alone. And it wasn't just the imp crew. There was other people that worked for me that were bloody good. It was a team effort. Well, the imp was the most important team, but
So a year ago, before you were finished, you were talking about the book, and it was like this thing that hadn't gotten done. Talk a bit about, was there a liberating feeling when you finally said, that's it, I'm done with it? Talk about finishing the book. Is it like finishing a design?
well, yes. And the book finished because I did a kind of chronological thing from this kid on the beach through having, in a simplistic way, this is a story. There's a kid on the beach that loves Captain Cook and Vancouver and Francis Drake. So I'm attracted to that guy. I don't know why that happened, but I was attracted to that, sailing, exploring across the ocean. So this kid on the beach gets a boat at 7, and I'm just imagining I'm Captain Cook. Now, it was a little tricky to be so bad at school. It would have been easier if I could remember how to answer the exams, but I couldn't. I did some bloody nice drawings on the exam papers. And then it was a timeline. So I followed a timeline and ended up back on the beach with my boat. And I'm just one step at a time. It's kind of unfolded like that.
What's the best part of design? What do you really get excited by?
Winning.
The performance of the boat afterwards. All right.
Well, that's less now because the boat's got bigger and more complicated. And I remember my clients got richer and fatter and older. So I think now it's seeing the boats in the south of New Zealand. I like this exploring thing. But certainly throughout my racing yacht period, it was all about winning.
Question in the back, Mark Lambros.
If I'm not mistaken, your work and your design team is out of Vancouver. In all seriousness, what makes Vancouver like a better place than San Francisco? Is it a personal thing, or is it actually for business that's the place to be?
No. You're absolutely wrong on every point. No, but it's a good question. So the only reason why I'm in Vancouver, first of all, I had the total freedom to be anywhere. So the reason I'm not here is I've been here. I've lived here. I know what it's like. So I'm going to San Francisco. It's a good possibility. Sydney, it's attractive.
But really, if you have a map of the world and you have the freedom to choose anywhere you'd like to live, not bad, Vancouver. Pretty hard to beat. So it's really nothing to do with business. But hey, you forget I started my yacht design career in Ireland. Are you crazy? I've told lots of young people, if you want to start a successful yacht design career, London or New York, not Ireland.
Lance, question from Lance.
So IMP, according to Don Jesberg, survived and really thrived in the 79 Fastnet, which, of course, several people didn't survive or thrive. Is there anything from that experience and similar ones that caused you to change how you design boats? And if so, what were the changes?
Yes, good question, and yes. So the best way I can answer it is go off on one of my stories. So we round Fast and Rock late in the evening, and we head off back to the Scilly Islands. And because I live in Ireland,
Irish team was leading in the Admiral's Cup.
when we were probably winning. So we round the rock. There's 3 boats, I think 2 American are outside us, bigger boats. And because I live on the Irish coast, I know how to get around the rock. So we cut inside these Americans. They must have thought we were crazy because we were. The chapter in my book's called White Water. So we cut inside our competitors, and we head back towards the Scilly. And so a couple of hours later, now it's seriously blowing. Well, actually, I don't think it was the wind. I've been in more wind, but the seas were bloody
Just
dangerous.
specifically, how much was it blowing? What were the seas?
It was probably
Describe the sea state.
I don't know. It was blowing 30 to 40 or something.
5, 6 foot seas? What kind of seas? 6 knot seas?
Breaking.
Top seas were 60 feet.
Big breaking seas. Like breaking was the thing. Like I've been across the ocean in big seas. but
Tops are
these-
blowing off of them. You
Yeah,
said.
the tops are crashing down on us. So now I've got to try. I'm trying to answer the question, but and I've got to do it this long-winded way. Sorry. So I hand over to Harry Cudmore the wheel, and I go below. You can only drive for an hour. It's bloody extreme and scary. The guys sitting on the rail holding on, and they're going, "Here comes a big one." I'm going, "Oh my God, if these guys are saying, 'Here comes a big one,' what the hell are all these other ones?"
Don't look back. Don't look back.
So remember, this is about what changes your design. So I go below and climb up into the bunk. And you just climb on your wet fart with you. It's not like now. It's those interiors I showed you. It wasn't like that. So I get into my bunk, and I'm lying there, and I get scared. I don't know why this. I'm thinking, if we hit a container, we're dead. All of us are dead. So I think now it's blowing a bit harder, and the mainsail's just out. And we've got a small jib we've got on, and the main's just out. It's shaking the boat to pieces. So I'm lying abed going, I don't like this. I'm scared. I'm going to have to go and tell the guys to get the mainsail down. And my first thought was, I don't want to be a wimp. And I'm kind of thinking, I don't want to be the one that, I'm scared, we're going to pull the mainsail down. Well, it was noisy and scary enough that I got my ass out of bed and went up, opened the hatch. And I'm going, oh, this will be interesting. All these Irish guys looking at me. I said, Harry, you got to get the mainsail down. Right, lads, get the mainsail down. I'll never forget it. Because I was really expecting you bloody sissy go down and have a rest. No, they were ready to get the mainsail down. So, yes, that changed my design. I
I was more conservative and more concerned about the structures than I had ever been before. So then, I already went through the carbon fiber rudder stories. Don't keep rubbing it in.
A question from Paul came in, and then, John, bring it over to Brian Mannix. Paul.
Okay, last week we had an America's Cup historian here for the Wednesday lunch. And when the narrative got to around 1870, describing the single challenger coming to race against the entire New York Yacht Club fleet, there was a public outcry that this was unfair, that the America's Cup should be more of an even match. But then I thought of, was it 1977 or 79, Imp sailing across the Atlantic and beating the entire Admiral's Cup fleet, proving that for the full 100 years after 1870, it could be done. And as you said, maybe it wasn't even that hard. So do you think it was a mistake for the America's Cup to go to one-on-one racing instead of staying with the original concept of a single foreign boat beating the entire local fleet?
Yeah, I like to think about that. First of all, my first comment to America's Cup, this is not about yacht racing. This is different. Before San Francisco last time, I was in the club. Oh, it's not like, it's different with these bloody catamarans. It's not as good as Perth, not like the old days. And then I'm sitting here looking at these things going up and down going, this is the most fantastic thing I've ever seen. So the America's Cup has to be taken out of this context of what we think is yachting. First thing. Secondly, the Americans made it as tough as they could for the English to win it. They never could. And that sailing across the Atlantic was one reason. And you were saying, so the Imp guys did it the other way. Yeah, but they were a good crew. So I don't know. I mean, I went through let's have the America's Cup more like a yacht race until Bermuda. Now I'm thinking, I don't care what it is. If they want to fly these monohulls around, it's not yachting. It's America's Cup. And pushing the leading edge of technology should happen somewhere. Why not there? I mean, when Lipton came over with his big boats, that was leading edge technology. You know, the Yanks built one of those boats that fizzed away because they were going to use high tech material, whatever it was, bronze or something. And the bloody thing fizzed away before they could race the thing even. So it's always been about pushing the limits. That's a little kind of off track with what you were asking, I think. But what I don't like about a trend, and the Kiwis I could accuse them of this. They're trying to make it in a way that more people can play. I'd forget that. Russell Coutts wants the thing to be a professional 100-boat thing. Forget it. It's about Saltworth and Lipton trying to beat one American boat. That's what the America's Cup has always been about. So we don't want to make it easier to play. We want to make it the hardest you can to play. So I've got a clue if I answered the question or not, but I had a good chat anyway.
Last question, Brian Mannix.
I'm Brian Mannix. My wife Vicki and I own a Ron Holland designed Swan 441. This isn't a question, it's more of a statement as how somebody ends up with a Ron Holland design. I had been racing in Ireland on Imp, which we've been talking about 20 years ago, and had the pleasure of meeting Ron. He probably doesn't remember me from Adam, but we had a couple of beers in the Royal Cork Yacht Club. And I was in maybe a 20, 25 minute conversation. I was more impressed with his concepts of design and also Murphy's beer served by Finbar Reardon, who I'm sure you remember. Ron Holland actually lived and had his work design studio right across from the Royal Cork Yacht Club across the bay. So from that meeting, I came home and met a couple of other owners of Swan 441s. A gentleman, Tony. We really got involved with the concept of moving from a racing boat that we have to a Ron Holland designed boat. And this is an invitation. The boat's out in front now. It's been in the yard for being remodeled for the last 6 months. So you're all welcome to come out and take a look at her. It's, I think, a classic Ron Holland design. It's a 44-foot boat. She won the Victoria Maui race in 1980. It's a great pedigree. And for my family, she's just been spectacular. Ron Holland, I thank you. You've given hours and weeks of enjoyment to my family. Thank you.
Great
Wow.
great last question. Ron, it's been a pleasure spending time with you today again, and what a great job helping us, mate. Thank you for attending the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon live from the St. Francis Yacht Club. The luncheon is adjourned.